Wonderful. Thank you, Nick. All right, so we've wrapped up our questions, and I would like to invite Mrs. Balu, who has been moderating the chat, and I think may have some questions from those of us that are joining us. Welcome back, Mrs. Balu. Do you want to take the floor now and ask some of those questions?
Yes, thank you, Teresa. Yeah, one thing is before I do that, I look at my next point at the end, especially in the pandemic situation all over the world right now. People are looking for the market. How do they reach? Because they don't have extra budget for marketing. That's the one reason we at Cocoa Town have this share the mic feature kind of thing, we call it. We try to showcase at least 2 of our customers every week. So whoever is listening, if you have a small business or a big business, doesn't matter. If you have a chocolate business, if you want the world to know that you are, what you do, what your products, send us your picture, your story, and also what is the special chocolate that you're making. We will be glad to share it on our social media. We don't have that many, like say, we cannot reach thousands of people, millions of people, but we can reach thousands of our followers. Even if you're not selling, maybe there is another chocolate maker, they're interested in bartering. So you send your chocolate to them, they send their chocolate to you, and you sell each other's chocolate in your country. So that's the collaboration we want to bring it to the chocolate community, because the peer collaboration and helping each other goes a long way, especially in this current situation. So please feel free to contact us if you need any kind of help. So now we can go back to the questions. Yeah, the first question is they want to know, how do you clean the melanger and what temperature? And then the next question is, what temperature do you, maybe let's go one at a time because they are not related questions. So how do you clean the melanger? But I just want to let you know, when I'm moderating, I'm giving only the questions that's related to today's webinar, because there are some questions that are not related to today's webinar. So I'm not going to ask. Maybe we will have some webinars in the future about that. So we will just, since it's about machine also as part of this, so I'm going to ask people how they clean their melangers. So anybody can take it and answer.
I just use hot water in my melanger. In the 12 SLTA, it's just take the bowl off, hot water, no soap, just really get into the crevices to get to the inside of the actual grinder stones, and then use microfiber to make sure it's all dry, and then leave it out covered with the top to dry naturally. Someone said there's difficulty cleaning the stones in between the screws and the tubes, hard to dry it. Yeah, microfiber is almost like what people use to, it's a very fine cloth, okay, with microfibers attached to it, so it can kind of get into those hard to reach places. I use like wire brushes to clean inside the tubes of the SLTA as a prime example, and that's pretty straightforward. The issue which I have, but I know that Andal and the team have dealt with that, is when you use the bigger machines like the 65A to E, if you're working on your own, being able to remove those huge stones is very difficult, but that, you can use a special lifter to be able to get to those. Again, you want to be using hot water to be able to get into all of those difficult to reach places, and also that you're not adding soap into the actual grinder stones. You want to avoid that.
Thank you. And then the other one is they're asking, what is the main obstacle when you started the chocolate business? So I don't know, that's very broad, and I don't think that's relevant to this. If you don't want to answer, or if anybody wants to answer, I will leave it to you.
Okay. I would like to say that the big industry, they have a lot of money, they have commercials on TV, radio, Facebook, everywhere. So we are not able to pay expensive advertisements. So people is used to eat chocolate that's not chocolate. So we are working, we are working, trying, we want to make the people understand that bean to bar or small producers don't use chemistry in their chocolate, in making chocolate. So it's real chocolate. It's not with additives or chemistry with flavor as chocolate. Tastes like chocolate, but it's not chocolate. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wants to add?
I'll just echo on you can make, on what Reyna said, you can make great chocolate, but also finding people to actually buy the chocolate, that's also another story, especially being in such a saturated industry. And so sometimes you have to get a little creative. Right now, one thing that has worked awesome for us has been social media. A lot of our first clients were through Facebook and Instagram. And if you focus on quality, then, and you're consistent, that's very key. Having a consistent product and having a product that's quality. And when it gets to people, they will actually spread the word about you. And that's one of the key things that happened for us at the beginning was word of mouth. So make sure you're developing a good product, make sure you're paying attention to quality, and make sure that your product is consistent. Consistent in terms of quality. Yeah, and use social media. It's a great tool.
Yeah. Then the next question is, somebody's asked, have you used stevia, the sugar substitute? Okay, so none of you have used stevia.
I've experimented with stevia. And one thing is know your clientele and also know what taste people are looking for. Stevia isn't for everyone. Stevia has a very particular taste. I personally don't like the taste of stevia. It gives you sort of like a Diet Coke taste. So if you're working with stevia, because I don't like the taste with stevia, I didn't pursue it. But you can do chocolate with stevia, but once again, it's going to give you a very unique taste and it's not necessarily pleasant for everybody. And it does have a very distinct, sharp taste out of a lot of the non-sugar sweeteners.
Okay, the next question is there minimum, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, and I have used stevia as well. And stevia keeps it's a strong flavor, herbal, a strong flavor. So if you don't have very fermented beans, you feel first the strong flavor of stevia than the flavor of beans. So it's hard to make chocolate with stevia. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. The next question is, somebody is asking, is there any minimum level of fat you need in your chocolate to work with?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is the question in regards to within the bean itself or added fat to it?
They did not mention. I think they're asking added fat because everybody knows the cocoa beans has 45 to 55% cocoa butter. I think they are mentioning about the additional cocoa butter.
I mean, I put no more than 5% into my bars. I'm really just looking for consistent mouthfeel when I'm adding in that. I just want the chocolate to melt out at the time it should take, and I want to be able to mold it. I don't know if anybody else has tried this, but when you work with like really high viscosity chocolate, when you try and temper it, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare if you're using a contemporary tempering machine. It's a nightmare if you're doing it by hand. You're literally just there watching it turn to concrete as you're actually trying to hand mold it in. You don't want that. So if you add around about 5% in, that's going to make pretty much any unworkable chocolate workable.
Okay. The next question is, do you think it's necessary to, dry the jaggery sugar?
Can I go ahead? Yeah, so I think it is necessary to dry jaggery as much as possible, because even this little bit of moisture actually causes issues with the grinding, and also the shelf life is reduced when there is existing moisture in the jaggery also. So it's as much as you can make it refined, and in the sense, like, the particle size is small and it's also dry, it works best. It's just from my experience.
Okay, and then how about the cocoa butter that you're adding? Do you choose natural cocoa butter or deodorized cocoa butter?
Me personally, I really like using natural cocoa butter, and I go around trying to find the nicest natural cocoa butter I can find. You have to remember, each location, each farm, each bean genetic will produce a different flavor cocoa butter, and adding that can give my chocolate a different flavor. So even though I'm working primarily with different regions of Jamaica, that's my thing, the terroir of different parishes, different geographical areas of the island. What I do like is mixing and matching a little bit of that cocoa butter, even at 1%, can add a very different other additional flavor note into the chocolate, which the cocoa on its own may not have. So that's my take on how to do it. For me personally, I actually find that using deodorized cocoa butter takes away everything. I mean, it's just like adding soap to chocolate. There's nothing to it. It's the worst thing in chocolate ever. I don't know why it was ever developed, because it's just like useless as far as I'm concerned, personally.
Okay, anyone else to add it, or can I go to the next one? Okay, the next one is, somebody's asking, they are using 35% of cocoa butter in addition to what is in the chocolate. Is that right?
How much?
35% cocoa butter they're adding.
That would be a very, I'm not sure how, no disrespect to the person, I'm not sure how nice that would taste, because that just sounds like a whole heap of cocoa butter. Unless that's a lot of cocoa butter. I don't know what anybody else would think.
Kimberly, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, that sounds like a lot to me as well. And one thing, how you would know is, I once put too much cocoa butter in chocolate, and it moves from chocolate is supposed to have a smooth mouthfeel, unless you're purposely making the sort of grainy chocolate. But it's supposed to have a smooth mouthfeel. And when you add too much cocoa butter, it begins to become not smooth and more slimy. So if you taste it and it's slimy, and you give other people to taste it and they're like, I can taste the cocoa butter, then that's too much. But just hearing 35, that sounds like too much.
And just adding to Kimberly's point, cocoa butter is expensive. You're significantly cutting into your profit margin if you're doing this as a business by using so much cocoa butter. Everything's about margins, everything is about money. And cocoa butter is a expensive line item. So bear that in mind as well. If you can't make it with that much, you need to drop your cocoa butter, because it's going to financially ruin you.
See, this is question, I have also heard from, especially from Ghana, when I went and met with the chocolate makers there. They are using 35% cocoa butter. I don't know, maybe somewhere in the internet it says to use 35% cocoa butter. So I'm trying to tell them that it's too much cocoa butter, but as an equipment manufacturer, I go tell them they don't. I don't know, they may not trust me, because that's why when you guys who have experience, maybe you can tell them that they don't, like you said, Nick, it's on ROI, the return on investment. So you
Yeah.
have to know how much you can sell it for, and by adding the additional cocoa butter, which is a lot more expensive than the cocoa beans, maybe we should have a blog article. You guys, all of you can write, and then we can post it on the website for people to know. I think that will make a lot of financial sense for a lot of people in different countries. And since this is a new industry, we need a good information from the practical side, who have made it as a business, not as doing an experiments or something like that. So since you do it as a business, and chocolate making is a business where you need to have a profit to sustain, I think that's a good advice, that you don't need that much cocoa butter.
And dear Andal, talking about as a business, I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody because I have to pop off the call to finish off some other business which I have to do. I just want to say how much I appreciated being on this. My final parting note is, it's a business, line item everything. If you want to make this, if you want to do the social impact, if you want the social justice, if you want to still feel passionate about it years from now, you have to treat it like a business from pretty much day one. How much is your sugar? How much is your electricity? How much is your time? How much is your time? It's one thing which we often forget. We need to bear all of those in mind if we want to make a success and give our chocolate industry the push which it ultimately needs. So I've really enjoyed it. I hope everybody doesn't mind me popping off, but it's a pleasure to meet you all. Take care.
Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us and sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Nick, one quick question. Somebody said, since you were talking about the machines, somebody is asking, they want to start the bean to bar business in Philippines. What is the two important equipment that he has to buy first? You can just answer the two machines and then you can leave. Sorry.
A Cocoa Town grinder. You see what I did there, Andal? Okay. And a winnower. I'm sorry, winnowing is by far the most nightmarish part of the process. I know that Gabriella asked about roasting. Roast the beans in your oven. When it smells like brownies, you're there, right? Take them off a little bit early. That part is easy. But winnowing is literally the most difficult, annoying, back-breaking, time-consuming, frustrating element of chocolate making. And you need to be able to refine your beans down to that under 20 microns where you don't taste it. And make sure you get good beans. So 3 things. Guys, a pleasure. I'm gone. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for your time. Okay. The next question is, okay, are there recipes to make chocolate instead of trying to do trials and fail in order to skip the error step? And using molasses should be powder or liquid?
Molasses, when you use molasses, must be powder, very dry. Yeah.
And adding to it, and there's no specific recipe, and it's all trial and error. There is a basic recipe for it, yes, but after that it's all trial and error, and every bean, every facility acts differently, and you will have to go through a lot of trials to be able to fix on a product and finalize a product which you're putting out to a market. It's unlike baking and other things where you have specific recipes. You will have to create your own recipe and formula in this.
The next one is related to the beans. They're asking, when you see the bean, how do you know it's a good bean? From smelling it, or how do you select the beans when you start making chocolate?
Yes, you need to have a reference, maybe in pictures, what is a good bean. a good fermented bean and a good lavado bean. If you are not able to have the beans before, and then when you get them, you need to smell them, to touch them, you need to open. If the bean is fermented, the smell is acid, and it's hard. When a bean is wet, it's not hard, it's soft. So there are several signs. Even if you don't know, you haven't had before beans, there are several signs that tell you that the bean is good. Broken beans are not good, and things like that. It's not difficult to figure it out when a bean is good or not.
Anyone else want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I think what Reyna said was spot on. Just use your 5 senses. You don't want to use beans that are too flat. You want to make sure that the beans aren't moldy. You want to check and make sure that the beans aren't infested with pests. So definitely use all 5 senses when assessing your beans.
Okay. Then somebody is asking, how long do you leave the machine on? 18 hours to do the grinding or more? The grinding time. How much time does it take for grinding?
Until you get 18 to 20 microns. That's it. You have to measure microns, once you don't feel texture in your tongue, the chocolate is ready. It can take more than 18 hours, more than 24, almost 40 hours. It depends.
Okay, and this question is for you, Reyna. They're asking, when you use the honey, do you dry the honey or do you, how do you use it?
Powdered honey, lyophilized honey. They freeze the honey and they take the water out and they powder the honey.
Someone is asking about the winnower, and they're asking what's the average recovery of cocoa nibs by weight after winnowing.
You lost, like, from a kilo, you lost like 200 grams.
Okay. That's okay. I think there's one thing I want to clarify is when people say how much you lose, actually it depends on the weight of the skin, because sometimes if the beans are clean, like Reyna said, it's only 200 grams, but sometimes if there are some other things attached to the skin or something, you might lose more. The way you have to calculate is how much skin you get with the nibs and how much nibs you get with the skin. That's how you say if you are getting a good result or not. And do you have any other way of measuring it?
I get very clean beans. Very clean beans. I don't lose any bean from the ones I buy. So that's why maybe I'm losing just the peels.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, okay. Somebody is asking, this is a question, I think as a practical use you can answer. They're saying when you need to grind overnight, do you turn them off at night? or you continue grinding? Because, my machine manufacturers say, do not use the machine without attending to it. So how do you use it in a practical sense?
Well, one must be attentive to when the machine is working. So I don't like to leave my machine working without me around there. At night, I turn it off and let the chocolate to rest. And it's good for the chocolate to have some periods of resting time. You get better chocolate when you do that. It gets like mixed all the flavors and things, and it's better. It's good to let the machine rest and your chocolate in as well, let it rest.
Anyone else? Kimberly or Arun?
We usually run the mission overnight. We have somebody for supervision, and we run it overnight. One of us make sure, me or my team make sure we don't stop the process.
But you're monitoring it.
Yeah, continuously monitoring through the night. Okay. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and it's a lot of strain, but we tend to do that.
Okay, and somebody is asking, they're making the chocolate using cocoa powder instead of beans. What's your take on it?
I don't think you're going to get very good tasting chocolate. I've never tried that. The cocoa powder is a result from the nibs. So you definitely, if you're going to make chocolate, you need to make it using the nibs to get a good tasting product.
Okay, somebody said they lose some of the flavors in the grinder. Have you had the experience? And do you give importance to the flavor or the texture?
Well, you lose acidity. The melanger is all at the same time is conching your chocolate. The effect of conching your chocolate is moving the chocolate to lose acidity.
Okay. The next question somebody is asking, like when you're leaving overnight, do you leave the, how do you restart the process?
Well, I do that. When I turn it off, I cover the melanger in order not to lose temperature. It's warm, you cover it with towels, and the next morning you turn it on. That's it. Just take care not to harden the liquor inside.
Okay, I think it's 12 o'clock and we want to respect everybody's time. So I think if any other questions, please feel free to email us. We will get the answer from the panelists and send it to you. And, we had advertised that also Jose from Ecuador will be on the panel today. Unfortunately, he could not make it because of some personal, issue. But he has a lot of, good information to give. So we will have his webinar in the future. Again, we will have more detailed processes. So we are going to have more webinars. Our next webinar in the series is called cocoa is more than chocolate. So not just making chocolate, how you can, especially in the origin countries, how you can make a business from other parts of the cocoa tree. So we look forward to seeing you all there and have a good day. Teresa, you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the panelists and everyone that showed up to hear their experience with us today. And just want to share my couple of my takeaways. One of my takeaways is everything that you shared. I'm not a chocolate maker, but there are a lot of life lessons in the journey of chocolate making. So I was making mental notes of things that I know I can apply in my life, like don't give up, and mistakes are a good thing. And then the other thing I'm so always overwhelmed by in this industry, being the bar industry, is the heart and the willingness of the people in this business to share openly and freely what they've learned to empower success for what you would think would be your competitor. Everyone is so willing to share their knowledge and experience. So that is always so inspiring to me. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, one just final note. We are going to send you a feedback survey. So please complete it, because we want to give better information or better written topics. So if you have any suggestion for the topics that you would like to learn, please let us know. And thank you all for your time again. Good day.